Let's do a little day tripping.
Sponsored by Atlas Butler Plumbing. Call us today at 1-800-FURNACE for all your plumbing and drain service needs. Yes, 1-800-FURNACE works for plumbing, too.
He's our guy, Austin Ward, Ohio State football reporter, Letterman Row and the Fan. My man, that was a very interesting press conference today. And because it felt like that the media was being respectful of players' privacy, but they also wanted to know, like, what's the protocol and where are we on the weapons and the dynamic duo? And so I'll ask you what you believe, because Ryan Day said at halftime of the Purdue game that holding out Carnell Tate was precautionary, which by definition means you're just being overly safe. And now we're approaching another week where he may or may not play. And Maddie and I are in the camp of, listen, if they're not 100%, then you just walk that line of rest versus rust and how sharp you want to keep clicking and the rhythm and all that. So you tell us, I'll give you the floor. What do you believe? Are these serious injuries? Are they in the precautionary category? And then eventually, would he, if they're less than 100%, feel like I got to have been 100% before Michigan?
Yeah, there's a lot in there, Anthony. And I'm going to sound a little bit like Ryan Day here as well, in that they have not been back on the practice field yet today. So, to say, here's what I know, or here's what I believe, here's what I'm told. Ohio State does not think that these are serious issues, not long-term issues. I would think if the order of the schedule was flipped and the game was this week and Rutgers was next week, we would see both Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate playing on Saturday. But they are not playing Michigan this week. They're playing Rutgers. And that may well lead to a situation with the rest versus rust that you're talking about, Anthony, that if it is anywhere less than 100%, that you don't have to, take the risk with every single snap. You may not take a risk with any snaps. I don't know. But Jeremiah Smith's situation is obviously different than Carnell's. Watched him throughout pregame warmups on Saturday, and I thought when they put the questionable tag on him that meant there would be no way that he would play. These things tend to work out one way more than another. But he said that he was absolutely good to go. I think the compromise was Ohio State's going to give him this amount of snaps and then put him over there on the exercise bike and shut him down for the rest of the evening. His thing, I don't believe there's been any re-aggravation to that, or that playing on Saturday against UCLA made that any worse. So his situation I don't view as any differently today as it was on Saturday, and he'll probably be in better shape to do as much as Ohio State feels that he needs to do against Rutgers. Now, Carnell's deal, it has certainly played out differently in a way that you wouldn't normally expect, where you would rule somebody out one week and then the next week you would ramp back up with the precautionary. So I understand that it looks unusual based on the way that these things normally play out, but I think I'm not aware of any re-aggravation to that lower body, muscle injury. And I think that Ohio State has justifiably taken a conservative approach with getting these guys back. So, there is a practice today, a practice tomorrow, a practice Thursday, all kinds of opportunities to rest and rehab and all those sorts of things. So, all I can say right now, it's not a prediction on if they're going to play or how much they're going to play on Saturday. I feel pretty comfortable saying right now that if they are needed for a game like the game, and it happened by this week, that they would probably both be out there.
I want to ask you this, and I don't want to put you in a corner, but I just feel like I have to ask. You mentioned Carnell with a lower extremity injury. Can you dig deeper on exactly what that is?
Yeah, I think it's a muscle strain. That's the way it's been described. Nobody has used those words to me, and I'm not a doctor. So those are piecing together the context clues. I over the last 5 days, Maddie, I've probably talked to 6 people involved inside the program or briefed on the nature of the injury, the severity of the injury. The consistent response is that not long-term, dropping in the breadcrumbs to lead me to that result. So, I want to be careful about that because I'm not reporting that that's exactly what it is. That's sort of we're in that ballpark. I guess it's the best way to put it. And those things, if it is a muscle situation like that, and we've seen this before, the reason I've said, dating back to last week, with you guys, that I don't view this as a Jackson Smith-Njigba situation is because of the severity, the way that was described, and the way that Jackson was being treated, and I mean like actual medical treatment, was very, very different than what has gone on with Carnell Tate over the last couple of weeks. So I don't view them as similar, and I don't think the outcome will be similar either.
What do you think Ryan Day has to hear from the trainer or from the medical staff to say, yeah, they should play against Rutgers, even a half? Like, what does he have to hear?
A full thumbs up. Like, there's no risk of making it worse, that specific injury. Now, I think that there's the other part of this that makes it so complicated, or makes it more complicated, I guess, Anthony, is that they're playing Rutgers. And, like, we may be having a conversation about, do they need to play at all, even if they were 100% healthy? Mm-hmm. And I think that just the Ryan Day's approach, which this is not new, this has been going on. He's in his 7th year as a head coach. The way that he talks about injuries or doesn't talk about them, the standard protocol, all these things, he's not doing this differently just because it's Carnell and Jeremiah and there's a ton of attention on it. This has been the case for everybody as long as he's been the head coach. So, I thought on Saturday, and I got a little bit of insight about Jeremiah on Friday night, and I thought, well, there's no way he's going to play then, because why would you risk it? They were telling him that there was not risk with that particular injury. And, it's a pain tolerance situation for Jeremiah Smith and a risk tolerance situation for Ryan Day, which is why this isn't even as straightforward as the medical staff coming and giving him a 100% thumbs up or thumbs down. I mean, there's so many factors that are involved here, and we've also been talking about this throughout the duration of the season with the number of snaps and reps and all of that Ohio State is trying to save on these guys to play up to 16 games. So, there's a lot of moving factors in there, and the severity is not the same for Jeremiah versus Carnell. And I think unfortunately, we're going to be talking about it probably all the way up until, 10 a.m. on Saturday.
I know Coach Day and Coach Hartline aren't caught up in all the Heisman stuff right now, but I can't help but think if Carnell and Jeremiah don't play, this could be a little bit of that boost that Julian can get, right? When the narratives matter, as you know. The moments matter, the narratives matter, and so he's right there with Mendoza, but if he goes out there, and he should, ball out at a high level against Rutgers without those guys, that'll help him.
Yeah, and I felt that way, Matty, 2 weeks ago at Purdue when Jeremiah played and was dominant and Carnell wasn't out there. Like, that boosted Jeremiah's Heisman stock, because there had been some people around the country, whether they're voters or not, or just, people like us giving some opinions, is like, oh, well, the reason Jeremiah is so good is because Carnell Tate is also awesome. And yeah, that's a little bit, there's an element of truth to that as well, because having both of them available makes everybody more dynamic in the Ohio State offense, and it certainly helps Julian Sayin. But then last week it became, which the way it played out with Jeremiah being limited and Carnell out entirely from another game, was like, I don't remember even who said it. It's like, oh, well, there'd be 25 quarterbacks in the country that would be undefeated for Ohio State. I'm like, are you sure about that? And even if you believe that, that's a little bit dismissive of what Julian Sayin is accomplishing and what this offense could still do if they need to feature Brandon Ennis more often, or bring along Max Clare in an even more prominent role, or Mylan Graham, or Bryson Rogers, who we saw score on a really nice play and scramble drill in the red zone on Saturday against UCLA. Like, yeah, Ohio State's ceiling in the Heisman Trophy campaign would be more interesting and at its best with all of these guys involved. But to your point, Maddie, if they need to take another week to make sure that everyone is 5 or 10% closer to 100% to get ready for the game and go into the big house, and Julian Sayin gets to show that he can still complete 75% of his passes for 300 yards and get other guys into the end zone, that is going to help his case. And that's why I think this has been trending this way, where Ohio State's true Heisman candidate, I think Jeremiah is the best college football player in America. The true Heisman candidate for Ohio State is Julian Sayin.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Somehow this week got interesting, so that's, I guess, good for us. All right, my man. Great having you on as always. Be well.
Yeah, something like that. Makes it more stressful, but you know what? That's part of the fun of mid-November. Great talking to you guys. See ya.
You too. Austin Ward, Letterman Row here and on the Fan. Brian Heating Cooling Systems Fan Guest Hotline. The other thing it does is that, first of all, I wouldn't play them unless they're 100%.
No,
like, I wouldn't do it.
They're on ice
because I wouldn't want the biggest regret I would have is if I played them and they re-aggravate it. Not that would be my fault necessarily, but you take the gamble, you play them in a game, you probably don't need to play them. The other thing it does from a benefit standpoint is that Sayin then could create a little more camaraderie and connection with the other guys that he doesn't work with as much. We know he's not ruining any chemistry with Carnell and JJ, but this would have a chance to build it. So if those guys somehow re-aggravated it in a Michigan game, then they'd have something more to fall back
memory
on.
To go back to. Yeah, I agree.
All right, we're getting close to the Black Friday sales and all of that, and it's really all savings month over there at Germain Honda of Dublin. Just an awesome dealership with great deals. It really doesn't get any better than that. And I want you to wait because you don't really have to wait, because you could grab a 2026 Honda Passport RTL all-wheel drive with 3.99% APR for up to 36 months. The 25 Honda Accord LX is a great deal, 2.99% APR up to 36 months. So the place to go is Germain Honda of Dublin. They're on Sawmill Road. They're just south of 270. Talk to Jerry, talk to Rich and their team. You can shop online and scout your next great vehicle at GermainHondaofDublin.com. We come back with Tell the Truth, Rothman Ice and the Fan.